Tonight I will teach you how to feel it, not how to think about it, not how to wish for it, not how to beg the skies to bring it. I will teach you how to feel it, for feeling is the secret. It is not enough to repeat affirmations. It is not enough to write down your goals or build visions on paper. You must learn how to feel the thing you desire right here, right now, so vividly, so naturally that the line between the imagined and the real vanishes. Feeling is the language of the soul. It is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. You can have whatever you want in this world: health, wealth, love, purpose. If you can assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, that is the eternal law. It is not something I invented. It is not philosophy. It is spiritual law. Whatever you desire, if you will only feel it as though it were already yours, then it will be yours. Now, I know how easily we confuse feeling with emotion, but I am not talking about excitement or elation or any fleeting emotion. NAL response. I am speaking of a deep inward conviction, the feeling of certainty, of knowing. To feel something real is to dwell in the state of its reality before your senses have any evidence of it. This is the challenge, and this is the key. You are told whatever you ask in prayer, believe you have received it, and it will be yours. Notice the instruction is to believe you have received, not that you will receive. That is a world of difference. Most people hope that one day their desire will come, and so they live in a constant state of longing. But longing is not having. Hoping is not receiving. You must live in the state of having. You must dare to dwell in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. And this, my friends, is a matter of feeling. Let me give you an example. Suppose you desire to be wealthy. The natural tendency of man is to look at his bank account, the bills on the table, the demands of the world, and to say, I am poor. I do not have. But this only reinforces. CES, the state of poverty. The outer world is only the mirror of the inner world. If you desire wealth, you must feel wealthy now. Not tomorrow, not after you receive a check. But now feel the freedom of having more than enough. Feel the security. Feel the gratitude. Walk, talk, move and think from the place of already having it. This is not delusion. It is divine imagining. Imagination is God in action. What you imagine with feeling becomes your world. Every man is living in the harvest of his inner activity. You may not remember when you planted the seed, the casual thought, the unconscious fear, the nightly worry. But your life reveals what you have entertained within. And so if you wish to change your world, you must change the seed. And the seed is the feeling. The moment you feel differently, your world must reflect it. Maybe not instantly, but inevitably. So how do you feel it? How do you feel something that your senses deny? This is the art, and it is an art that can be learned. First, you must quiet your outer mind. Go into a state akin to sleep. Lie down or sit still. Close your eyes and slow your breath. Withdraw from the world of facts, of logic, of appearances, and then begin to construct the scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. If you desire marriage, construct a scene in which you wear the ring or hold the hand of your beloved. If you desire success, imagine a scene where someone congratulates you. If you desire healing, imagine walking freely, energetically, joyfully. But the key is not the scene. It is the feeling. Once you build the scene, enter into it. Do not see it from the outside. Be in it, touch it, smell it, hear the sounds. Let the scene possess all the tones of reality. And above all, feel the inner satisfaction of your wish fulfilled. Feel the joy, the gratitude, the relief. Dwell there, rest there, return there night after night until it becomes natural, until it feels as real as your waking world. What happens then? The outer world rearranges itself. You may call it coincidence. You may say it's luck or timing, but it is the outworking of the inner seed. People will show up. Opportunities will arise and doors will open. Not because you chased them, but because you embodied the state that drew them in. This is the law of consciousness. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. Suppose you want to be confident. Do not wait for external proof to give you permission to feel confident. Assume confidence. Now, how would you walk if you knew you were confident? How would you speak? How would you breathe? Begin to take on those qualities in the silence of your imagination. Feel them. Embody them. Rehearse them until they are no longer a costume but your true nature. And then watch the world reflect it. People will begin to treat you differently, not because they changed, but because you changed. This is not arrogance. It is faith. It is trust in the creative power of God within you. Why? 3. Our imagination is not a toy. It is the creative workshop of your reality. Every time you imagine, you are shaping form. And every time you feel the reality of that imagination, you give it life. This is why we are told, according to your faith be it unto you. Faith is not words. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. It is the feeling of the unseen. Do you understand now why I say feeling is the secret? Because it is the doorway through which the unseen becomes seen. Thought without feeling is sterile. Words without conviction are powerless. But when thought is fused with feeling, it becomes creative. It becomes the word made flesh. You are doing this all the time. You are feeling your world into being consciously or unconsciously. When you dwell in fear, you generate the very conditions that validate your fear. When you dwell in resentment or self-pity, you birth a world that reflects that state. And when you dwell in confidence, in joy, in gratitude, in abundance, you generate the those conditions. The world does not act independently of you. It reacts to you, and your truest signal is the feeling you live in. Now this may be simple, but it is not always easy. The mind will resist. The senses will protest. Old habits will pull you back into doubt. But you must persist. You must live in the end. You must make your home in the state of the wish fulfilled. The only way to do that is through feeling. Every night before you sleep, ask yourself, what do I want to feel is true? Then assume it. Do not wait for evidence. Evidence comes after faith. Sink into that feeling as though you were already there. The mind may say it is not logical. The world may tell you to be realistic, but logic and realism are servants of imagination. What is real today was once only imagined. What is common today was once impossible. Your destiny is shaped not by your effort alone, but by the state you consistently occupy. Occupy the state of your desire. Feel it, rest in it, become it, and let be. The world adjust. One man can change the world not by changing the world directly, but by changing the way he sees and feels the world. Your inner conversations, your inner moods, your inner assumptions are far more powerful than your actions, for they determine your actions, your reactions, and your results. Do not pray with words alone. Pray by assuming the feeling of your desire fulfilled. If you want peace, feel peace. If you want love, feel loved. If you want abundance, feel abundant. This is the prayer that never fails, the prayer of being. The universe always responds to being, not to wishing, not to asking, but to being. Let me remind you, you do not need to know how. That is not your domain. The how is God's business. Your task is only to assume the state. Live from the end, feel it, and persist in that assumption. All things will come to you if you can feel that they are already yours. Say within yourself, I am what I long to be, and then feel what it is like to be that. Well. 3. Let there. Refuse to be moved by appearances. Refuse to entertain any contrary state. If fear arises, do not fight it. Simply return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Every time you do, you are creating. Every time you feel it real, you are moving mountains. You are not a beggar. You are not a victim. You are the operant power. Everything begins with you. Everything flows from you. If you can accept this and begin to practice this art of feeling, if you will give more attention to what you are feeling than what you are seeing, your life will transform. Now is the time to awaken. You are not here to survive. You are here to create. And creation begins with the feeling of the thing you desire. If you can feel it, you can have it. If you can feel it, you can live it. If you can feel it, you can become it. This is the truth. This is the law. And so I leave you with this. Practice, persist, and above all, feel. Let the feeling of your fulfilled desire be your home, your refuge, your temple. 3. Let it be more real than what your eyes see. Let it be more precious than what the world offers. For when you feel it, you fuse with it. And when you fuse with it, it must appear. I have taught you how to feel it. The rest is yours. Feel it when you rise in the morning. Feel it while you walk through your day. Let the assumption of your fulfilled desire color your thoughts, your speech, your actions. Let it saturate your being so completely that there is no longer a separation between you and what you have longed for. If you can live in the feeling, not just in the thought, but the feeling, then what you feel must be externalized. It must show up. For that is the law, that is the promise. When you realize that all that you behold, though it appears without, it was first within, in your imagination, in your feeling, then you understand your true creative power. You are not at the mercy of conditions. Conditions are at the mercy of you. Everything begins with your assumption, and your assumption. On when persisted in becomes fact, you may say, but I don't see it yet. And I will say to you, you are still looking through the eyes of doubt. For the one who truly feels, it has no need to check the outer. He knows. She trusts. They rest in the unseen as though it were already seen. This is the inner knowing, the unshakable peace that comes from feeling the end and living from it. You do not need to force the world to conform. You do not need to struggle or strive. You need only assume. You need only feel. Feel yourself already in possession of the thing desired. Feel yourself already being the person you choose to be. Then go about your day with that inner knowing. Walk with confidence. Speak with certainty. Let your inner conversations reflect your new state. Say to yourself, I am already that which I desire to be, and refuse to entertain any thought to the contrary. This is the secret hidden in plain sight. This is the treasure buried in the field. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not a trick. It is the key. The more natural you can make the feeling, the faster your world will shift. When the state becomes your dwelling place, not just the place you visit for a few minutes, but the place you live, then the outer world must rearrange to match it. This is law. This is inevitable. You are always feeling something. The question is, are you feeling what you want or what you fear? Are you imagining the best or rehearsing the worst? Most people rehearse failure, rejection, lack, and then they call it reality. But that reality was first imagined. You cannot outwork your inner feeling. It will always find a way to express itself. It must. Your world is the mirror, and you are the cause. Do not underestimate the power of a simple, quiet feeling. Do not despise the small beginnings. A tiny seed of assumption, if watered with faith and repetition, will grow into an unshakable tree of experience. And no one will see the seed but you. That is why you must believe before you see. You must feed it before you hold it. That is the way of the creative spirit. When you go to bed tonight, I ask you, what is it that you truly want? Not what the world tells you is possible, but what your soul longs for. And then, in the silence of your mind, assume the feeling of that wish fulfilled. Let it be real to you. Hear the words you would hear. See the images you would see. Feel the joy, the ease, the celebration. Let it become so vivid, so rich, that when you open your eyes, you carry that state with you. This is the work. This is the prayer. Not begging for change, but assuming the change has already come. Not asking God to give, but thanking Him that it is already done. The world may call it delusion, but I tell you it is divine creation. It is how everything has ever come into being from within out. Once you understand this, you will never again try to fix the outer world without first changing the inner world. You will know that the only work worth doing is the inner work. That the only reality is the one you assume. That the only thing that matters is how you feel. Not how you feel about your current life, but how you feel about the life you have claimed in your imagination. So I ask again, what are you feeling? What state are you living in? What inner conversations are you entertaining? For these are the seeds of tomorrow's experience, and tomorrow will be nothing more than the harvest of today's assumption. Choose wisely. Feel deliberately. Live purposefully. You are not here to wait. You are not here to wait. You are not here to wish. You are here to create. And your tool of creation is not action. It is feeling. You will be led to act. Yes, but not from desperation. From inspiration, from alignment, from the conviction that your desire is already yours. So you act naturally. You speak with power. You walk with grace. You smile. Not because something has happened, but because you know it has. You have felt it. You have claimed it. You have accepted. It has been done. This is how miracles happen. This is how lives are changed. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. You do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to explain yourself. The world will catch up. What matters is what you feel now, not what you see, not what others say, but what you feel. And when your inner state becomes more real to you than your outer circumstance, then your outer circumstance must yield. It must bend. It must conform. This is your power. This is your inheritance. This is the divine within you. Your imagination, your feeling, your assumption. Use it boldly. Use it faithfully. Use it with joy. For the world is clay and you are the potter. The world is a shadow and you are the light. The world is the echo and you are the voice. Speak with feeling, think with feeling, live with feeling, and never forget what you feel you become. Let this truth saturate your being. What you feel you become. When you begin to see that your feelings are the true CR, eaters of your experience, you will guard them with reverence. You will no longer allow yourself to indulge in doubt or sink into fear. For you will know that these states are not harmless. They are seeds. And what is planted in feeling must eventually grow into form. So you will choose deliberately. You will feel intentionally. You will occupy only those states that align with your ideal. You may ask, but what if I feel doubt? And I will tell you, do not fight it. Do not fear it. Simply move your attention. Withdraw from the feeling of doubt and shift gently into the feeling of assurance. You do this not by force, but by faith. Faith is a movement of attention. It is the ability to leave behind what your senses claim as fact and enter into a higher truth, the truth of your fulfilled desire. This is not a battle. It is a surrender not to fear but to the feeling of the answered prayer. You do not need to fix your entire life before you begin to feel differently. You do not need every day. Exhale resolve before you can assume the feeling of peace. In fact, if you wait for the world to be perfect before you feel fulfilled, you will wait forever. But if you dare to feel fulfilled first, regardless of appearances, the world will eventually reflect that state back to you. So the journey is inward. It is always inward. When you close your eyes and enter that quiet place, you are stepping into the workshop of creation. What you build there in feeling will be built out here in form. This is not poetry. This is spiritual law. You have been given dominion, not over others, not over circumstances, but over your inner world. And as you govern your inner world, the outer world yields. Do not expect this to be done for you. No one can feel for you. No one can assume for you. This is your sacred responsibility, your divine privilege. Others may inspire you, teach you, point the way, but you must walk the path. You must shut out the noise of the world and listen to the whisper of your free imagination. And when it calls you to feel a greater truth, say yes. Say yes. Even when nothing outside confirms it, say yes. Even when your reason protests, say yes. Because what you feel in faith is greater than what you see in fear. You will know you are feeling it when the thought of your desire no longer creates tension but peace. When you think of it and smile inwardly, not because it might happen, but because it already has in you, you will know you are feeling it. When the urgency fades and you rest in quiet confidence, you will know because your reactions change, your inner speech changes, and you begin to carry yourself with the calm certainty of one who has already received. This is why you must return again and again to that inner place. Every time the world contradicts your assumption, go back. Every time doubt whispers its old story, go back. Go back into the state of the wish fulfilled, reclaim the feeling. Rest in it. Saturate yourself with it until it becomes your dwelling. Ling place. You are not asking the world for permission to change. You are not waiting for evidence to feel good. You are being the change. You are living the evidence. And that state, that inner atmosphere, is the cause of everything that will follow. You are not subject to fate. You are subject to your own feeling. And what you feel persistently and with conviction must be expressed in your world. Think now of something you desire. Let it rise gently in your awareness. Do not force it. Just let it come. And as it comes, ask yourself, what would I feel if this were already true? What would I feel if I knew, not believed, but knew that this was mine? And then let that feeling rise. It may be subtle at first. That's all right. Rest in it. Lean into it. Let it become more familiar than your doubts. Let it become your new normal. If you do this consistently and with sincerity, your world will transform. Not because you manipulated events, but because you aligned with the higher version of yourself, the version of you that already has what you desire. That version is real. That version exists now. Your task is to feel yourself into that version again and again until there is no gap between who you are and who you've imagined. That is the sacred art. That is the mystery revealed. That is the secret that sages and prophets and mystics have tried to tell through parable and poetry and prayer. That within you is the power to change your world. And that power is released not through effort, not through struggle, but through feeling. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the password to your new reality. And so, my friend, practice. Do not wait. Begin now. Feel now. Be now. Let every moment become your opportunity to return to the feeling. When you catch yourself falling back into worry, into old reactions, do not scold yourself. Simply shift. Redirect your attention to the scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. Do not try to fix the scene you don't want. Leave it behind. Completely. The past has no power except what you give it. What matters is the now, for now is the appointed hour. Now is where your power lies, and now is where you must feel. If you are in debt, feel abundance. If you are lonely, feel love. If you are afraid, feel courage. If you are sick, feel wellness. This is not pretending. This is not ignoring reality. It is creating a new one. You are not denying what is. You are affirming what can be. You are declaring a higher truth and stepping into it by feeling its reality long before your senses confirm it. What you feel now with acceptance and repetition becomes what you live tomorrow. The mind wants to know how, but the heart already knows it is done. Trust the heart. Trust the feeling. It will lead you, shape you, transform you. You will wake up one day and realize that the thing you once longed for has become so natural, so obvious. You can hardly remember a time without it. That is the beauty of this process. What once felt like a instant hope becomes your everyday state, and you didn't force it. You felt it. Feelings do not lie. They reveal what you truly believe. You can say, I am rich, but if you feel poor, it is poverty that you're affirming. You can say, I am loved, but if you feel unwanted, it is rejection that will echo through your world. The words mean nothing without the feeling behind them. It is not your statements that shape your world. It is the feeling you carry. When no one is watching, you must become intimately familiar with the state you desire. Study it, observe it, practice it until it no longer feels foreign. If your goal is freedom, then ask yourself, how does freedom feel? What does it do to my breath, to my posture, to my thoughts? Begin to incorporate those elements. Now, this is not waiting. This is becoming. You are not far from your desires. They exist in a parallel reality. One breath away and the bridge is feeling. Feel your way across. Move in your imagination. Dwell there. And be. As you dwell, the world must reflect it. You don't need to make it happen. You need only assume it is already. So you need only continue in the feeling. Even when the outer world gives no sign that is faith, that is power, that is creation. Live now as the person you desire to be. Let every choice affirm that state. Let every feeling support that reality. Become the living proof of your own vision. You do not need validation. You only need feeling. And the feeling, once accepted, will express itself. It will draw to you everything necessary. It will arrange the people, the places, the resources. The world will move to support the new version of you that you've dared to feel. This is the great mystery. The world is yourself pushed out. Your outer life is a mirror of your inner assumptions. Change the assumptions and the mirror must change. You need not fight the reflection. You only need to change what you are reflecting. And the only way to do that is through the sustained natural process. 3. Tent feeling of the wish fulfilled. Persist in the feeling even when your senses shout otherwise. Especially then, that is the test. That is the moment where most turn back. But if you can remain faithful in feeling when all appearances contradict it, then the change is near. Your breakthrough is near. The world is about to yield to your new inner reality. When it does, it will feel effortless because it was never about effort. It was always about feeling, about alignment, about choosing your state and remaining there, about claiming what is yours and walking in it without doubt, without apology, without delay. Feel it real. Feel it now, and let the world bend to your belief. Your belief is not measured by how loudly you affirm something or how many hours you spend visualizing. It is measured by the depth and persistence of your feeling. If you can maintain the inner atmosphere of the wish fulfilled even in silence, even when no one knows what you are doing inwardly, then you are created. 3. You are planting seeds that must be law taken root and manifest. Your feeling is the evidence of things not seen. It is the substance of the unseen made tangible in your inner world. And as surely as the dawn follows night, the outer must reflect what has been sustained within. You must not waver. Do not allow a single hour of despair to uproot what you have built in weeks of inner faith. The mind will try to rush you. The senses will try to distract you, but the feeling is your compass, your anchor. Stay with it, nourish it, return to it until it becomes your second nature. As you persist, you will notice subtle changes. Your reactions soften, your mood lifts, your vision clarifies. These are signs. These are the whispers of transformation. The world is shifting not because you demanded it to, but because you finally dared to feel it as already done. There is a version of you that has already realized your desires. That version lives in the state you are learning to inhabit. Now, more time you spend in that state, the more that version becomes your dominant identity. This is not acting. It is remembering. It is remembering your true self, the one who lacks nothing, the one who creates effortlessly by the law of feeling. You are not here to merely react to life. You are here to command it not through force but through inner authority, through the quiet confidence that what you feel in truth with conviction must find its reflection. The world cannot help but echo your inner state. It is powerless to do otherwise. It is not cruel. It is not withholding. It is obedient, always obedient to the assumptions you accept as fact. You have already done the hard part. You have desired. Now the real work begins to feel that desire fulfilled until it becomes your dwelling place. Feel it when you are alone. Feel it when you're in the midst of others. Feel it when you're tempted to give up. Return again and again to that inner knowing. Say within yourself, "It is done." And let that feeling settle in your bones. Let it color your speech. Let it fill your breath. There is nothing outside you to overcome. The only task is to overcome the temptation to disbelieve, to overcome the inner habit of identifying with the lack rather than the fulfillment. You must divorce yourself from the old man, from the former way of seeing, and marry the new state, the one where you are already the thing you desire to be. You must marry it in feeling. Let your inner conversations become those of one who already has. Let your mental imagery be filled with the scenes of already living your dream. Let your reactions change so naturally that the old self feels like a memory. This is how rebirth happens. Not with noise, but in the quiet transformation of inner feeling. Not in fanfare, but in inner fidelity. And yes, the world may test you. It may present you with echoes of the old state, but these are not roadblocks. They are reminders. They are asking you, will you go back to who you were, or will you remain faithful to who you've become? And in that moment you must feel again, choose again, stand again in the state of the wish fulfilled. This is not something you do once. This is something you live day by day, breath by breath. For as long as it takes for the state to become so natural, you no longer even try to feel it. It simply is. And when it is, the world will mirror it without hesitation. So do not be afraid of persistence. Do not grow weary in feeling. Let this be your daily bread. Let this be your continual prayer. You are not pleading with an outside force. You are communing with your inner reality. You are aligning with the divine within, which only needs you to feel as if it is already done. That is the open door. That is the straight path. That is the key that unlocks the unseen and makes it seen. Keep feeling, keep assuming, keep becoming, keep becoming. For in becoming you fulfill the law. Every time you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you or reassert your creative authority. You tell the universe, not with words, but with vibration, "This is who I am now." And the world, ever faithful, ever listening, rearranges itself to echo that truth. You may not know when or how, but that is not your concern. The bridge of incidents will unfold naturally, perfectly, irresistibly, and you will walk across it with grace, wondering how effortlessly it all came to pass. But it was not effort, it was feeling. Do not seek signs, for signs follow. They do not precede. The one who feels it real does not look for evidence. He becomes the evidence. She walks as if, speaks as if, breathes as if, and soon the world takes notice. Not because it was forced to, but because it had no choice. The law cannot be broken. The outer must conform to the inner when the inner is sustained with conviction. You are not separate from your desire. You are one with it. The moment you feel it real, there is no future manifestation. There is only now. The future is free. An illusion created by the mind that has not yet accepted the present. But once you feel the thing is real now, you collapse time. You bring the future into the present, and the present becomes the birthplace of your new reality. You may say it still seems far away. But that perception is only a reflection of your current state. Shift the state and the distance disappears. The moment you feel one with your desire, the illusion of waiting vanishes. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer try, you embody. An embodiment is the only cause worth pursuing. Let this be your devotion, not to the world, but to your feeling. Let your inner state be your temple. Let your assumptions be sacred. Let your inner dialogue be pure. For every assumption you persist in is a prayer, and every feeling you dwell in is a declaration to the universe. This is who I am. You will always receive what you are, not what you want, not what you need, but what you are. And you are what you consistently feel you are self to be. So feel wisely, feel purposefully, feel lovingly. You do not need to struggle for change. You need only assume the state and remain there in feeling until it becomes your world. You have been told to be still and know. To be still is to withdraw your attention from appearances. To know is to feel. Knowing is not logical. It is experiential. It is a deep conviction that bypasses reason and anchors itself in the heart. That knowing, once accepted, once felt, becomes the very foundation of your new life. Let the world do what it will. Your job is to feel. Feel beyond your current facts. Feel beyond your fears. Feel beyond your doubts. And the moment you do, you shift timelines. You realign with a version of yourself who already has, already is, already knows. That is the miracle. Not that you will receive, but that you already have. And all that is left is to accept it in feeling, not in theory, not in debate, but in the silent living, breathing assumption of the wish fulfill. Ed, stay there, return there, live there, until it no longer feels like imagination, but becomes your natural state of being. Live there until the thought of not having feels foreign and untrue. Live there until the feeling of the fulfilled desire is so integrated into your identity that you no longer seek it. You express it. You embody it without effort, without rehearsal. That is when manifestation becomes inevitable. Not because of how hard you tried, but because of how deeply you believed. You will begin to notice the subtle changes first. The shift in how people treat you. The tone of your inner voice, the way your body moves lighter, freer. You will respond to life differently. Not because life has changed yet, but because you have, and as surely as night follows day, the outer world must follow that inner shift. It is law. Just as the seed once planted contains within it the certainty of the tree, your inner assumption once felt as true carries the certainty of its own. An expression. There is no need to rush the moment you feel the desire as fulfilled. You have already entered the state that brings it forth. You do not need to prove it. You only need to persist in it. And you persist not by trying, but by trusting, by returning again and again to the feeling and resting there. It may feel unnatural at first, like trying on new clothes. But keep wearing it, keep living in that feeling, and soon it will become your second skin. It will become so natural that you will forget you ever struggled to believe. That is when you know it is done. That is when creation is complete. You may still walk among others who are unaware of their power, who live in the shadows of fear and limitation. But you will know differently. You will carry the secret. You will be the light, not because you preached or persuaded, but because you lived it. And the life you live, the life born from conscious deliberate feeling, will be undeniable. Others will wonder how things happen so effortlessly for you. They will try to explain your success with logic or circumstance. But you will know it was not the world that changed. It was you quietly, inwardly, persistently. You changed your state. You assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and everything else was simply the outpitching of that invisible choice. This is the gift you've been given, the ability to assume any state and make it real through feeling. The outer world is not your master. It is your mirror. What you see around you is but the echo of what you have accepted within you. And the moment you shift the feeling, the echo must change. It cannot resist. It has no will of its own. Feel it now. Let it take root. Let it grow. And let the world bend in response. Let the world bend in response. For it always does. You need not command it with words or push it with effort. Your feeling is the silent force that does all the work. Like the tide responding to the moon, reality responds to the state you dwell in. W. 3. When you feel lack, lack multiplies. When you feel abundance, opportunities blossom. When you feel love, the world mirrors back affection in forms you never expected. The world does not discriminate. It reflects. It does not judge. It reacts. It is your servant, and it waits on your mood more faithfully than any human hand. So you become more aware not just of your thoughts, but of your feelings. You begin to notice when you drift into fear, and instead of spiraling, you pause and return to your true state. This is the spiritual discipline. Not to deny what is, but to override it, to feel what you choose to be true even when the senses scream otherwise. It is in that very moment, the moment of contradiction, where the real transformation takes place. That is where faith is proven. You are not asked to ignore the facts. You are asked to supersede them. To walk by faith and not by sight is not poetic metaphor. It is practical instruction. And to walk by faith is to walk in the feeling of the unseen. It is to carry the energy of the goal long before it arrives, and to treat that energy as the only reality worth trusting. That energy, that feeling is your invitation, your permission slip, your spiritual signature. If you will hold to it, if you will cherish the feeling and return to it as you would return to a friend, the outer world must follow, not because it chooses to, but because it must. Your sustained inner conviction writes the script, casts the players, and opens the curtain on the scene you desire to live. But do not fall into the trap of efforting. There is no striving in feeling. There is only allowing. The leaf does not strain to grow. It simply aligns with the light. You too must align. Align with the feeling of being, of already having, of already being. Let the feeling do the work. Let it soften your heart, ease your breath, calm your body. Let it wash away all resistance until you are clean, clear, and sure. When the voices of doubt arise, and they will, need only return to your state. Do not argue with them. Do not wrestle with fear. Rise above it. Remember who you are and feel from there. Let that new identity speak on your behalf. Let it decide how you respond, what you expect, and how you walk into each new moment. And if you falter, return. And if you forget, return. And if you doubt, return. For this power is not fragile. It is patient, ever present, and ready to receive you. Every moment is another chance to realign, to recalibrate, to return to the knowing. It is done. It is so. I am so. You begin to trust not in outcomes, not in timing, but in the feeling itself. The feeling becomes your compass. It becomes your atmosphere. It becomes your guide. And eventually it becomes your reality. Not because the world granted it, but because you assumed it into being. You became it before it ever arrived. And in that becoming, you stepped into your true inheritance. Creator, chooser, operant power. You no longer wait for life. You author it. You no longer wonder if it's possible. You feel it until it's inevitable. You feel it until it's inevitable because that is how the law operates. Not through luck or accident, but through sustained inner certainty. And that certainty is not born in the intellect. It is born in the heart, in the deep recesses of feeling where truth lives untouched by logic or appearance. When you move from this center of feeling, everything outside must yield to your assumption. Not out of effort, not through manipulation, but through divine law unfolding itself perfectly through you. You begin to see that everything in your past was only the result of unconscious feeling. And now, armed with awareness, you take back your power. You no longer speak of what is as though it has control over you. Instead, you speak only of what you are choosing to feel, for that is the only truth worth giving energy to. And as you speak, you feel, and as you feel, you become, and as you become, the world bends to your end. You self-concept without resistance. Let others call it imagination. You know it as the truth. You know it as the substance that becomes fact. Let them wait for signs, you create them. Let them hope. You live in fulfillment. You become the quiet example of what's possible. Not by explaining or convincing, but by embodying. There is no sermon more powerful than your alignment. No argument more persuasive than your calm, sustained feeling of the end. You will no longer be shaken by appearances, because you no longer derive your confidence from them. The outer is fleeting. The inner is eternal. So you build your house upon the rock of feeling, and no storm can shake it. You walk in the state of completion, and the world mirrors that stability in every detail, until even your environment seems to rise in honor of your decision to remain faithful to your inner world. When others ask you how it happened, you will not need to boast. You will simply smile, because the answer cannot be spoken. It must be to be felt. You will know that they too are capable, that all men and women are operating this law, whether they realize it or not. And you will encourage them not to strive, but to feel, not to push, but to dwell. For all things are possible to him who believes, and belief is nothing more than the feeling of already being. Once you master that, you lack nothing. You are no longer a seeker. You are a finder. You are no longer the one in need. You are the source through which the desired reality flows. Drawn by your inner conviction, shaped by your mood, held in place by your refusal to accept anything less than what you have already accepted within. From that place, you live in peace. Not because every condition is perfect, but because your inner state no longer depends on conditions. You create from peace. You think from wholeness. You act from fulfillment. And all that unfolds around you is merely the unfolding of what you have already made real through the power of sustained inner feeling. So go on, feel it, live there, remain faithful to it, no matter how long it takes. For what you assume with feeling, you will inevitably experience. You will inevitably experience it because it is law, unchanging, unwavering, impartial. The law does not favor the rich or the poor, the wise or the foolish. It only responds to the one who dares to feel, the one who accepts within what the world has not yet shown. And in that quiet daring, in that sacred defiance of the senses, the miracle begins. Not a miracle of chance, but of principle. The same way a seed must grow when it finds the right soil. Your feeling, once rooted, must bear fruit. The beautiful truth is this: you are always planting. Every mood, every assumption, every repeated emotion, these are the seeds. The question is never if you're creating, but what you are creating. Once you understand this, you stop letting life happen to you. You begin to shape it deliberately, not by force, but by feeling. Feel the wealth and let the world show you abundance. Feel the love and let relationships blossom around you. Feel the health and let your body respond. The world is not initiating. You are the world, only echoes the tone you strike within. This is your divine gift, your sacred responsibility. There is no power outside you greater than the power within you to assume a state and feel it into reality. There is no external event that cannot be rewritten by the inner drama you choose to play. And as you return day after day to that feeling, you rewrite your identity. You shift your center of gravity. You become the man or woman who no longer wants, they are. The old man, doubtful, worried, reactive, falls away. The new man, anchored in the feeling of being, stands tall, not arrogantly but quietly certain. This is not about pretending. It is about knowing, not about faking. It is about feeling. And the world cannot help but yield. You don't need to keep asking when. When you truly feel it, the question of time becomes irrelevant. You no longer look to the clock or the calendar for confirmation. Your confirmation is within. You wake each day not with anxiety, but with gratitude for what is already yours in consciousness must become yours in form. As you remain in that state, you begin to feel a calm, a knowing, a deep unwavering trust that what you have imagined is now setting events into motion. Invisible threads begin to pull the scene into alignment. People, opportunities, even seeming coincidences. None of it is random. It is the result of your new state announcing itself to the universe. and the universe, being a perfect servant, must deliver. You will find that the more deeply you feel it, the less you need to speak it. Words become secondary. The vibration you carry speaks louder. People respond to you differently without knowing why. Doors open, resistance melts. You walk through life not as one who begs, but as one who blesses. You walk not in desperation, but in dominion, because you have discovered. 3. The secret of secrets. To feel is to create. And so you walk in that creative power, not once, not twice, but moment by moment. It becomes your natural state, your unshakable home. And though the world may still challenge you, you are no longer moved. You remain anchored in your chosen state, and the world eventually surrenders. Not because it is kind, but because it is obedient. It always has been. It always has been obedient to your innermost convictions, whether you realized it or not. That is why many people live lives they do not desire, because they unknowingly feel into lack, into fear, into rejection. And the law, being no respecter of persons, gives them what they dwell in. But you now awaken to understand this mystery. You see that you were never a victim of life, but always its author. You see that your outcomes were never accidents, but the fruits of emotional investment. And with that understanding you reclaim your authority, not to control others, but to command your own inner world. No more looking outward for validation. No more waiting for something to happen to make you feel better. You know the process now. You feel better, and then something happens. You live from the cause, not the effect. You dwell in the end, not in the hope. You cease asking, "Will it come?" and begin declaring, "It is done." Not because of arrogance, but because you have felt it deeply enough for it to become your reality within. And that inner reality is always stronger than appearances. You begin to notice how easily you shift, how powerful it is to assume a new identity, a new self-image, a new reality, all by the simple act of feeling differently. You start small, perhaps testing the waters. But then the results come, and something within you wakes up. The old beliefs lose their grip. The former doubts feel like memories from a life you no longer live. You taste the freedom of creation, and there is no turning back. You become selective, not in judgment, but in vision. You no longer give your energy to what you do not wish to see expand. You deny it the power of your focus, your attention, your feeling. And in that denial, you don't push it away with force. You simply starve it. And what you feed instead is the vision of what you have chosen. You nourish it daily with imagination, with gratitude, with stillness, with joy, and it grows quietly, faithfully, until it blooms around you and surprises even those who thought they knew you. This is the true power of feeling. It transforms not just your conditions, but your consciousness. You evolve not by striving, but by selecting, not by changing the outer world, but by transforming the inner one. You become something greater, something freer, something truer than you ever allowed yourself to be. And all of it begins with one simple act: to feel the end, as though it were already so. It is in that feeling where the new world begins. The kingdom of heaven, not far away in time or place, but here now within you, hidden inside. 3. In plain sight. And when you feel it, truly feel it, it reveals itself, not as an external reward, but as a natural outflow of your inner state. You see it in the gentle unfolding of daily life, in the way people treat you, in the way things work in your favor, in the unexpected yet perfectly timed answers to silent prayers. You know deep in your spirit that this was never about the thing itself. It was never really about the money, the relationship, the success. It was always about the feeling of wholeness, the remembering of your creative power, the return to your divine nature. The outer world was just the mirror. The real treasure was your ability to dwell in a chosen state and remain there long enough for it to become flesh. You now walk as one who knows, not who hopes, not who wishes, but who knows. And your knowing is not loud, it is calm, grounded, steady. Like a tree rooted in deep earth, you are unmoved by storms, unshaken by appearances. You trust the invisible more than visible, because you have tasted its fruit, and it is sweet. This is the life you are always meant to live, not bound by facts, but liberated by truth. Not enslaved by condition, but empowered by consciousness. The life of the awakened creator. The one who feels before seeing. The one who claims before receiving. The one who dwells in the unseen and calls it done, calls it real, calls it theirs until the world has no choice but to agree. The world always agrees with the one who does not waver. It bows to the persistent assumption, the unwavering feeling of being. It is not the loud declaration that wins. It's the silent confidence, the quiet inner knowing that never flinches in the face of contradiction. When you are no longer moved by what you see, but remain loyal to what you feel. That is when reality shifts not slowly, not reluctantly, but with precision and speed that astonishes the logical mind. And why? Because the world is not made of matter. It is made of mind. Matter only reflected. 3. Tests what the mind has dared to assume and sustain. The moment you feel it real, the moment you live from the end instead of reaching for it, you move into alignment with the laws that govern all things. You are no longer asking the world to give you a sign. You are the sign. You are the evidence of what you believe, and others may not understand it at first. They may say you are unrealistic, that you should prepare for disappointment. But how could you be disappointed when you already dwell in the fulfillment of your desire? What is there to be anxious about when you already are what you sought to become? That is the paradox. The one who feels it does not chase it, and because they do not chase it, it comes because they no longer signal lack. They become magnetized with fulfillment. And that magnetic field draws people, events, and circumstances like iron filings to a magnet. You will notice this, how things begin to flow, how resistance fades, how your outer life begins to reflect the beauty, confidence, and completeness you feel within. This is why I urge you to feel it now, not tomorrow. Not when the outer world cooperates, but now. Because now is the only moment of power. The future is shaped here in this breath, in this choice, in this emotion. You are not on a journey toward fulfillment. You are the fulfillment journeying through time, revealing itself layer by layer. You are not becoming wealthy. You are wealth uncovering itself. You are not finding love. You are love removing its veils. When you finally grasp this, when it is no longer a theory or a quote, but a living truth in your soul, you begin to rest, not in passivity, but in peace. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer need to force. You simply align. And the force that creates worlds begins to work through you, not against you, not apart from you, but as you. This is the mystery. God in you as the hope of glory. And glory does not come to those who wait in fear, but to those who feel in faith. So I ask you, what are you feeling right now? Not what you're hoping for, not what you're planning, but what are you truly feeling? Because that is the seed you are planting. That is the reality you are creating. And if you don't like the fruit, change the root, change the assumption, shift the mood, cultivate the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and do not let it go. Cherish it like a precious flame in your chest, and refuse to let the winds of circumstance blow it out. For this is your power, the power to feel regardless of the facts. The power to see with the eyes of imagination when physical sight denies you. The power to hear the sound of success before the woe. D has echoed it. The power to move, speak, act, and think from the place of completion before the outer world confirms it. That is the secret of the great. That is the discipline of the awakened. That is the only true mastery there is. It belongs to you, not because you earned it, but because you were born with it. This power was never outside you. It was never in the hands of fate or fortune or other people. It was always within, waiting for your recognition, waiting for your feeling. And now that you know, now that you feel it, the world must align. It is not a question of if, but when, and when is determined by the intensity and constancy of your feeling. The constancy of your feeling is the very anchor of your world, not just fleeting emotion or a momentary spark, but a deep sustained knowing. A knowing so rich, so alive that you no longer need proof to believe. You believe because the feeling itself is enough. It satisfies you more than the outer result ever could. And in that space, 'tis faction, in that deep inner fulfillment, you call forth the echo from the world around you, because the world only echoes. It never initiates. It does not give you what you want. It reflects who you are being. That is why we do not beg. That is why we do not plead. We do not need to persuade the universe. We only need to persuade ourselves to feel it, to be it, to wear it as a second skin in the silence of our imagination. And as we persist in that inner garment, the world reshapes itself to fit the mold we hold within, not sometimes, not maybe, always. The law is exact. It cannot be fooled, but neither can it be resisted once you align with it. You will find that everything changes when you do. What once felt far away begins to feel familiar. The impossible starts to seem inevitable. And people unaware of the shift you've made in consciousness will say it happened suddenly, or by luck, or by divine favor. But you will know the truth. It came because you dared to feel it before you said. You honored the unseen. You bowed to the invisible truth more than the visible lie. You stayed loyal to the vision even when the facts screamed otherwise. So you rise not by effort but by assumption, not by climbing the ladder of effort but by ascending the staircase of imagination. Each step is a deeper feeling. Each breath is a richer embodiment of the end. And there at the summit is not something new but something remembered, because you already are all that you seek to become. The journey was never about becoming. It was always about unveiling, uncovering, allowing the truth of who you are to be felt and lived. When you touch that level of being, when you feel from the mountaintop rather than climb to it, you'll begin to see everything around you adjust in obedience. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. Not because you waited, but because you walked in the feeling of the answer before the question was even asked. That is the beauty of this power. It does not wait on time, on logic, on approval. It waits only on your permission. So what will you permit yourself to feel? Not someday, not once things improve, but now. Will you allow yourself to feel abundance while the bank is still empty? Will you allow yourself to feel loved before the relationship appears? Will you allow yourself to feel healed while the symptoms still linger? Because that is what faith feels like. Not denial of what is, but conviction in what is becoming. The inner world is more real than the outer. And once you feel that, you are no longer subject to the world. You are its master. The world obeys masters not through domination, but through dominion. The one who rules their inner state rules their outer reality. The one who governs their emotions governs the outcomes. The one who lives from the end walks a path already prepared. And so you prepare yourself not by action, but by feeling, not by doing more, but by becoming more. Not through toil, but through truth. The truth. This is this. You are already it. The only distance between you and the life you desire is the feeling you withhold. But the moment you give yourself permission to feel it fully, everything begins to change. The shadows vanish. The doubts dissolve. The fear becomes irrelevant because you have found the treasure within. And with it you have inherited the kingdom without. In this kingdom within, you realize that all things exist. Every state of consciousness, every outcome, every version of reality you could ever desire already is. Creation is finished. You are not creating anything new. You are only selecting, choosing, dwelling. The moment you accept that all things are already prepared for those who dare to feel them, you move beyond struggle. You no longer ask, how will it happen? You simply say, it is done. And then you feel from that done place. This is not fantasy. It is divine law. This is not pretending. It is participation in the unseen realm that governs all things seen. When you feel it real, you are engaging the most sacred force in the universe. Imagination fused with emotion. This is the true worship. This is the altar where transformation occurs. Not in places of stone, but in the temple of your inner world. The world responds not to your need, but to your state. And your state is nothing more than what you consent to feel as true. So if you want more, feel more. If you want love, feel love. If you want peace, feel peace. And do not wait for evidence. You are not at the mercy of conditions. You are the cause of them. The outer is only a reflection of the inner mood sustained. You must practice this mood until it becomes a home, until it is more familiar to you than the facts, until it becomes your dwelling place. Then and only then does the world conform. You do not have to know how. You only have to feel now. You do not have to figure out the steps. You only have to live in the end and allow the steps to unfold. Life will take care of the bridge. Lie. Will bring the connections, the people, the resources, the miracles. But only when you move first, not in action but in consciousness. Only when you choose to be who you desire to be. Now, Yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first. Your old mind will argue. Your senses may rebel. But this is the test. Will you serve the senses or your soul? Will you bow to appearances or the truth? Because every great transformation begins with the refusal to accept the visible as final. Every great awakening is a choice to feel the invisible so strongly that the visible must yield. It will. It always does because it must. The law is perfect. It does not fail. If you remain loyal to the assumption, if you persist in the feeling, the outer world will bend. And what once looked like magic will become your new normal. What once felt like fantasy will feel familiar, not because the world changed, but because you did. Now that you know this, what will you choose to feel today? Will you remain in the old motions repeating the same outcomes, or will you break the cycle and feel something new, something bold, something divine? The choice is always yours, and with that choice, you write your world. With that feeling, you draw the future into the now. And in that now, you become the creator you were born to be. The moment you accept that you are the creator, not just a participant in life, but the one shaping it through every conscious emotion, you begin to walk differently. You carry yourself not with arrogance, but with sacred assurance. You begin to understand that nothing is denied to you except that which you deny yourself through your refusal to feel it real. You realize that the only barrier between you and your desire is your hesitation to inhabit it internally with conviction. You start to see every problem not as an obstacle, but as a test of how faithfully you can remain in the state of the wish fulfilled despite contradiction. The appearance may scream lack, but you whisper abundance in your soul. The world may echo delay, but your inner world chants now, and that is the rhythm to which your reality dances, not to the beat of the facts, but to the heartbeat of your assumption. So the work is not outside, the work is within. The labor is not in the field, but in the feeling. You prune your thoughts. You watch your reactions. You take every emotion and examine it against your vision. And when you find one that does not belong, one of doubt, fear, envy, or hesitation, you do not judge it. You release it. And then you return to the garden. You plant again the seed of your fulfilled desire. And you water it, not with worry, but with worship. Not with effort, but with expectation. This is how the world is changed. Not through revolution, but through realization. One awakened person feeling truth is more powerful than 1,000 asleep in fear. One soul walking in the end lifts nations, families, destinies, for consciousness is contagious. Your vibration radiates. What you embody, others feel. Even if they cannot name it, they sense your certainty and it opens something in them. Without preaching, you become a teacher. Without persuading, you become the proof. When you become the proof, you no longer strive. You no longer push. You no longer chase anything. You simply attract. Your inner world draws to itself all that matches its tone, its flavor, its scent. The people, the moments, the doors, all appear not as coincidence, but as confirmation. You are not surprised because you already met them in your inner sanctuary. You already shook their hands in imagination. You already experienced the joy of the moment long before it showed up in time. So time becomes your servant, not your master. It bends to your faith. It serves your vision. And though the world may call it patience, you know it as preparation. Not because you are waiting for your desire, but because it is arriving into your already felt fulfillment. And you know how to wait, not in doubt, not in delay, but in delighted expectation. Like one waiting for a package they already know is on the way. They do not beg the postman. They just check the door. This is what it means to feel it real. To so fully embody the state of the answered prayer that you no longer pray from lack, but from love. You no longer request, you rejoice. You no longer knock, you walk in. You do not look for signs, you are the sign. You do not chase evidence. You breathe as the evidence. And that state, once chosen and sustained, becomes your new identity. The old man dies. The new man lives. Not someday now. Now becomes sacred. Now becomes your dwelling place. And in this sacred now, all things are present. You are no longer separate from the thing you desire. You are no longer hoping or wishing. You are claiming, not with force, but with feeling. You do not reach out, you reach in. And in that inward reach you touch the eternal. You make contact with the source, the I am, the beginning of all creation. Realize that every moment you feel something, you are decreeing a thing. Every inner movement is a command to life. Every emotional tone is a script handed to the actors of your world. And so you become gentle with your feelings, not passive but purposeful. You select them the way an artist selects colors. You choose them the way a composer selects notes. You become a master of atmosphere, not out there but in here. You stop reacting and you start radiating. You begin to set the tone wherever you go. You bring peace into rooms that once felt chaotic. You bring wealth into places that once felt dry. Not because you have done anything externally, but because your internal landscape has changed. You have become the embodiment of answered prayer, and the world which only mirrors now reflects a new reality. You may still walk among the same people, the same places, the same patterns, but something is different. You are different, and the world cannot help but respond to that difference. Situations that once resisted now yield. Conversations shift. Relationships deepen or dissolve depending on whether they match your new vibration. And you do not chase either. You bless them all, for they are part of your unfolding. And as you continue to live in the feeling, it becomes easier. It becomes natural. It becomes automatic. Like a song you've memorized. You hum it without thinking. You smile without forcing. You wake with joy, not because anything outside changed, but because you have changed the cause. You've taken ownership of your state. You've taken dominion over your mind. And in doing so, you've taken back your world. For so long you may have believed that the power was out there in money, in people, in timing, in effort. But now you see clearly the power was always you. The creative act was always yours. You were not born to suffer at the hands of fate. You were born to feel fate into form. You were not made to react. You were designed to initiate. And every feeling is your initiation. So do not wait for permission. Do not wait for proof. Do not wait for the world to give you what you must first give yourself. Feel it now. Own it now. Walk in it now. And let the world bend to your inner decrees. Let time bow to your inner belief. Let circumstances yield to your inner conviction. Because they must. Because you are the one holding the brush. You are the one shaping the clay. You are the one dreaming the dream and living it all at once. When you live the dream in feeling before it becomes fact, you align with divine order. You move with the rhythm of true creation. Not by waiting but by assuming. Not by hoping but by knowing. Not by asking but by being. You understand now that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are the projector, not the screen. You are the writer, not the character reacting to the plot. You are the light behind the shadow, the cause behind the form. This realization is freedom. You are free from the tyranny, free of circumstances, free from the bondage of what is, free from the need to justify your dream to anyone, even to yourself. You no longer need to convince because you already consent. You no longer need to explain because you already experience. And that experience felt within, cherished in the heart, is the seed that grows into seen reality. You water that seed every moment you choose to remain in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Every time you walk, speak, think, and breathe as the one who already has what they desire. You nourish that invisible root. And though the world may not see it, you know it. And your knowing becomes the bridge. Your knowing becomes the cause. Your knowing becomes the container into which the unseen pours itself. Still, you do not push. You do not strive. For creation is not a matter of force but of faith. You do not need to tell the seed how to grow. You only need to trust the law. And the law is this: that which you consistently feel as true becomes true. Not because you made it so, but because it already was, and you finally stepped into agreement with it. Agreement is the key. Agreement is the secret doorway. Agreement is the quiet. Yes, you say to the version of yourself who already dwells in the fulfillment of your desire. And when you agree fully, emotionally, unwaveringly, the rest follows. People show up, conversations happen, doors open, and you do not stand in awe of the change. You stand in gratitude for the alignment. You look back and see that every delay was a gift. Every closed door was protection. Every silent season was preparation, because you were not being denied. You were being ready. Your world was not rejecting you. It was reconfiguring itself to match your new state. and your state was never built on what you had, but on what you dared to feel. Now you understand why nothing is more important than your state of being, why you must guard it like a sacred fire, why you must nurture it like a precious garden, because it is from this state that your whole world flows. Not one detail escapes its influence. Your relationships, your health, your success, your opportunities, all are born from the silent realm of feeling. That's where creation begins, and that's where it ends. So you begin to take feeling seriously. You begin to walk as a priest of your own temple, watching the thoughts you allow to dwell, watching the emotions you entertain, not with fear, but with reverence. You understand that the world is not outside of you. It is inside you, projected outward. Every face you meet, every circumstance you confront is only there to show you what you've been holding inside. And that is not a burden. It is the greatest gift, for if the cause is within, the solution is too. You no longer fear the future because you know you are its author. You no longer dread the unknown because you have made the unseen your friend. You no longer beg for answers because you carry the key, and the key is always the same, as assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not tomorrow, not next year. Now. For now is the only time that matters. Now is where your power lives. Now is where God speaks. When you live in this now, when you clothe yourself in the state of your desire fulfilled, you begin to glow. Not with ego, but with essence. Not with pride, but with presence. People may not know what changed, but they will feel it. They will feel your calm, your certainty, your quiet joy. They will feel the life you carry, and it will remind them of their own. Without trying to teach, you teach. Without trying to lead, you lead. Because truth, when embodied, needs no announcement. This is the beauty of feeling it real. It liberates not only you but others. It calls the world higher. It invites those around you to step into the same awareness. When you demonstrate through your life that imagination creates reality, others begin to wonder, what if it's true? And in that wondering doors open, in that pondering paradigms begin to shift because feeling is contagious. And once someone tastes the power of inner assumption, they can never go back to powerlessness. This is how the world is healed. Not through argument or force, but through individuals who dare to feel the truth of their being. Individuals who awaken to the divine creative power within. Individuals who no longer wait for permission to be great, to be joyful, to be free, but feel it first, then watch the world align. And in doing so, they remind all of us that heaven is not a place far away. It is a state, a dimension of feeling available here and now. When you dwell long enough in that heavenly state, when you allow it to permeate your thoughts, saturate your emotions, guide your words and gestures, you begin to notice that you are no longer chasing, no longer forcing, no longer grasping. You are magnetizing. Your very presence becomes a vibration that draws all things into harmony with your inner conviction. And this harmony is not built on effectively. It is built on rest. Rest in the knowing that you are already what you seek. You cease striving to become and instead relax into being. You understand that creation is not about accumulation but about revelation. The wealth, the health, the love, the peace, all of it was always present in the I am, and your assumption simply unveils it. You are not making something happen. You are letting something be. You are releasing resistance. You are dropping the illusion of separation. And in that release, you remember the truth you've always known. Deep down, I and my Father are one. This oneness is not metaphorical. It is experiential. It is the reality that the same creative power that spoke the universe into existence lives within you, speaks through your imagination, and manifests through your feeling. And because you know this, you become unshakable. No storm outside can unsettle the stillness inside. No lack around you can convince you of lack within, because your truth is not sourced in appearances. It is sourced in awareness. Your awareness is sharp. It is awake. It is no longer pulled by doubt, fear, or delay. It is anchored in fulfillment. You do not waver. You do not contradict your assumption with words of worry or glances of skepticism. You hold your vision with tenderness and intensity, like a mother holds her child, and the universe, like a faithful servant, begins to echo that vibration in form. It comes not with thunder but with clarity. It enters not with force but with flow. Opportunities arise that seem tailored. Conversations unfold with divine timing. The right doors open without your knocking. And you are not surprised. You are grateful, yes, but not surprised because this is what you expected. This is what you felt long before it showed its face. You lived in the end, and now the end has lived its way into your world. You don't stop with one answered prayer. You don't become passive in your mastery. You recognize that life is an ever-expanding canvas. You are the painter. You do not fear the blank spaces. You celebrate them. For you know that any image you impress upon your consciousness when saturated with feeling must take shape. It is not theory, it is law. And law does not fail. So you grow bold in your inner world. You stop playing small in the realm of imagination. You dare to see yourself greater, higher, more radiant. You dare to walk into rooms in your mind that your feet haven't yet touched. You dare to shake hands with people your current self hasn't yet met. You dare to stand on stages, write the check, hear the applause, feel the love, wear the crown, because you know that what you feel becomes what you see, and you no longer apologize for it. You no longer shrink to fit the doubts of others. You no longer trade your vision for their validation because you've tasted something higher, something purer. You felt the real. The real doesn't require evidence. The real is the evidence. It needs no proof because it carries C, fiction. It's not a reaction to the world. It is the cause of the world. The more you return to that place, the more you live from that place. The more you realize that you were never meant to react. You were always meant to create. Not in the limited sense of effort or toil, but in the grand divine sense of assumption, of inner embodiment of feeling. Now you know how to feel it, not as fantasy, not as mere visualization, but as truth. You don't just see the scene. You breathe in the atmosphere of the fulfilled desire. You feel the ground under your feet in that new place. You taste the air of that new life. You hear the sounds of celebration around you. You touch the texture of your manifestation in your imagination with such vividness that your body cannot tell the difference. And that is the secret. The subconscious does not differentiate between what is felt inwardly and what is experienced outwardly. It accepts your feeling as fact, and from that acceptance it reorganizes the whole of reality. You feel it in silence. You feel it in solitude. You feel it while you walk. You feel it before you sleep. You feel it the moment doubt tries to creep in. You choose the feeling like you choose a coat to wear. It becomes your new atmosphere. And even when nothing appears to be happening, you stay faithful to the feeling. Because faith isn't believing it will happen. Faith is knowing it has happened and remaining unmoved until it's seen. And slowly, subtly, and then suddenly, the world responds. It must. It's not a matter of if, but when. It's not a matter of how, but of trust. The bridges of incident begin to form. The steps unfold beneath your feet. The coincidences become too perfect to be random. You don't force these things. You simply stay in the state. You walk in the feeling. You let the feeling lead. As the feeling leads, your life begins to mirror it in the most beautiful, intricate, divine ways. You wake up and notice how things that once worried you now parcel. Clouds. You interact with others and see how they respond to the change in your energy. Some drawn to it, some confused by it, but all touched by it. You find yourself no longer fighting the old conditions because they no longer have your attention. You've withdrawn the emotional investment that gave them life and instead poured it into your new state. That state, like a seed, germinates in the dark and soon pushes through the surface. You become at ease in the in-between. You no longer rush the process because you are the process. You are the movement of God unfolding through imagination. You stop judging the delay because you realize there is no delay, only preparation, only alignment, only the graceful unfolding of what your assumption has already birthed in the unseen. And the unseen is no less real than the visible. In fact, it is more real. It is the mold from which the visible is cast. So you continue to live inwardly as if the whole thing were already finished. You speak from the end. You walk with the feeling of it being done. You answer questions in your mind as if you've already received the blessing. You shift your internal dialogue from will it happen to isn't it beautiful that it has happened. You feel thankful not in advance but in reflection, even if the reflection hasn't yet appeared in the mirror of life. You know it must, for the law is faithful and it cannot lie. You understand now what it means when Neville said the world is yourself pushed out. That every argument, every closed door, every unexpected blessing, every kind stranger, every delay and every miracle, they're all reflecting your inner state. Not just your fleeting thoughts, but your sustained assumptions. What you accept as true within yourself, you express as life. You realize now that this isn't just a technique. This is a way of being, a lifestyle, a spiritual posture, an art. Like any art, it becomes more effortless. The more you practice, you stop overthinking it. You don't panic. When the outer world wobbles, you don't scramble for signs. You rest, you breathe, you return to the state. You sit down within yourself and close your eyes and feel. You sink into the version of you that has already received it, already experienced it, already become it. You merge with that identity so deeply that you forget who you were without it. And it's in that forgetting that you're reborn. You're reborn not by external change, but by internal shift. You shed the skin of doubt, the garments of old stories, the weight of past disappointments. You no longer define yourself by what happened or didn't happen. You no longer tell the tale of almost or someday. You only speak from the knowing that it is done. The feeling has become your home, and you dwell in it as naturally as breath. As you continue to abide in this state, you begin to notice a calm authority rise within you, a quiet confidence not based on arrogance but on union. You are not hoping, you are not pleading, you are know. And that knowing is magnetic. It draws ideas, people, events, synchronicities, all dancing in harmony with your inner conviction. You are no longer the seeker, you are the source. You are no longer knocking on doors, you are building temples within. Those temples are sacred. They are built in silence and worshipped in feeling. They are where your assumptions live, breathe, and give birth to reality. You tend to them like a gardener, carefully, lovingly, consistently. You do not allow weeds of fear or doubt to overgrow. You prune your thoughts with truth. You water them with gratitude. You let the sunlight of imagination shine freely. And you trust the unseen root system to flourish in perfect timing. Each moment becomes an invitation to return to the state. Not just during meditation or quiet contemplation, but in the hustle of life, in the movement of daily duties. You carry the state like a fragrance that cannot be washed away. Even in difficulty, you do not abandon the feeling. Why? Or deepen it. You let it anchor you. You let it remind you that no matter the storm, you are held. You are secure. You are the operant power. Nothing is denied to the one who feels it real. So you begin to live lightly. You don't grasp. You don't beg. You bless what you have and call forth what you desire. Not from lack, but from fullness. You walk through life as if all things are conspiring in your favor, because now you know they are. Every delay is divine. Every no is redirection. Every step is perfectly placed because you have chosen the end and life is aligning to meet you there. You realize that feeling is not just a moment of imagination. It is the substance of faith. It is the bridge between the invisible and the seen. It is how the divine in you communicates with the universe around you. And once you truly feel it, you never again doubt your power. You may forget momentarily. You may drift. But the memory of that feeling, that power, that truth, it brings you back. It calls why? Home. As it calls you home, you recognize that home was never a place, never a destination outside of you. It was always the state of consciousness you choose to dwell in. It was always the feeling of already being, already having, already knowing. You no longer need confirmation because the truth is no longer outside of you. You walk with it. You speak from it. You act in alignment with it. The feeling is now the compass by which you navigate life, and it never misleads you because it is aligned with the divine law. The law that, as within so without. You watch the outer world bend to the inner image. You see how old patterns lose their hold when you stop energizing them with attention. You witness relationships transform, finances shift, opportunities arise, not because you pushed, but because you felt. The subtle change inside you becomes the cause of every visible change around you. You finally understand that manifestation is not about doing. It's about being. It's not a matter of it. It's a matter of alignment, and alignment comes through feeling. You become still and ask yourself, what would I feel if it were already true? And then you feel that. You don't wait for the world to prove it. You don't wait for permission. You claim it in your soul. And your soul answers with peace. That peace becomes your evidence, your sign, your knowing. You rest in that peace even while the world remains unchanged, because you now live from the inside out. The people around you may not understand. They may call you delusional, but you no longer need their understanding. You're not seeking agreement. You're walking in dominion. You're no longer reacting to appearances. You're commanding substance with assumption. You know now that the feeling is the prayer. It is the doorway. It is the act of creation itself. And the more you enter into that holy place, the more you realize you lack nothing. Every version of you already exists. Every desire already has a fulfillment. You're not trying to get to it. You're returning to the state in which it's already yours. So you stop asking when will it happen and begin declaring it has already happened in me. You stop scanning the world for evidence and begin tuning your heart to feel only that which is consistent with your desire. And the more you do that, the more the desire becomes alive within you. Not something far away, not something hoped for, but something real, something present, something inevitable. In that inevitability you discover a freedom that surpasses every fleeting pleasure this world once offered. No longer are you bound by time, for in feeling it real, you collapse time itself. The need to wait disappears, replaced by the deep knowing that you already are what you desire. You don't chase anymore. You attract. You don't pursue. You permit. The energy of striving fades, and in its place a powerful stillness emerges, a stillness that is pregnant with fulfillment. You begin to walk through the world with new eyes, not eyes that seek to fix or analyze or compare, but eyes that recognize, eyes that behold, eyes that see every person, every event, every circumstance as a mirror of the inner world you've chosen. If something appears that is unlike your desire, you do not react in fear. You bless it and return. You return to your state. You return to the throne of feeling. You don't explain it away. You don't try to manipulate it. You simply move inward and re-enter the end. The end is not a finality. It's a frequency. It's not just a result. It's a reality already vibrating in you. And each time you feel from it, you are feeding it. You are energizing it. You are magnetizing it into form. The world is compelled to reflect it, because the world has no choice but to obey the law. That's what makes this so glorious. You are not subject to chance, nor are you a victim of circumstance. You are the operant power, and that power is felt. It is never forced. It is never struggled into being. It is simply assumed. The assumption, when deeply felt, overrides all logic, all history, all so-called facts. It becomes your truth, and your truth creates. You realize now that your only true work is to maintain the inner state, to feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not just once or twice, but as a dwelling place, a lifestyle. You wear the feeling like a second skin. You breathe it, you walk it, you live it. And that feeling, when persistent, must objectify. So you no longer rush the process. You savor it. You enjoy the unfolding. You walk in quiet joy, not because everything is perfect, but because you know that everything is responding to the truth you've chosen within. You don't need to force the outcome. You're no longer moved by appearances. You live from the end, and the end is peace. The end is joy. The end is already yours. When you live from the end, everything changes. Not because the world outside has rearranged itself instantly, but because you have. And when you change, the WOLD must conform. That is the mystery so few understand. They try to change the outer but neglect the inner. They strive to rearrange the shadow, unaware that the light source is their own consciousness. But now you know better. Now you feel from the light itself. You are no longer reaching for the shadow. You are embodying the cause. The joy you feel is no longer conditional. It is not tied to what someone says, or what the numbers show, or whether things appear to be moving. Your joy is rooted in being, not having. And from that joy flows a confidence, not loud, not boastful, but calm, unshakable, and clear. It is the confidence of someone who has seen the end and refuses to entertain anything less. You carry this assurance like a secret melody in your heart. And even when others doubt, you smile, not because you're superior, but because you know that what you feel consistently must come to pass. You know that your reality is not being dictated by chance or fate, but by your acceptance of the feeling. And that feeling becomes your covenant, your connection to the divine. You no longer beg for blessings. You bless yourself by entering the state. You no longer wonder if you're worthy. You declare your worthiness by accepting the desire as yours. Now that acceptance is not arrogant. It is alignment. It is faith in motion. It is the bridge between the seen and unseen. You realize that feeling is not just a tool. It is the sacred language of creation. It is the divine conversation between the human and the infinite. And when you feel the end, truly feel it. You speak in the tongue of angels. You no longer use words to convince the world. You let your state do the talking. You let your vibration preach louder than your voice ever could. And everything begins to respond. The right people call. The right doors open. The ideas come. The way is made clear. Not because you forced it, but because you felt it into form. Even when resistance shows up, even when doubt, TS try to whisper their familiar lies, you don't wrestle with them. You smile and you return. You return to the state that knows. You return to the silence that sees beyond the noise. You return to the feeling that says it is done. And you dwell there not as a visitor, but as a resident, not as a guest, but as an heir. You are no longer the old man, the old identity. That shell has fallen away. You are now the embodiment of the desire. You are now the manifestation walking itself into visibility. As the embodiment, you don't just carry the desire, you carry its fulfillment. You no longer speak of it as something to get, but as something you are. Your words begin to change. You speak less of what was and more of what is. Even if others can't see it yet, for you it's already done. It's as real in the unseen as it will soon be in the seen. You felt the rain before the clouds appeared. You've tasted the fruit while the seed was still underground. This is the power of the imagination force, the feeling. This is the holy marriage of spirit and form. So you cherish the feeling more than the facts. You protect it like treasure. You nourish it with repetition, with gratitude, with silence. And with each moment you remain in that state, the world responds with increasing agreement. The contrast fades, resistance weakens, conditions rearrange. People shift, events align, and the impossible becomes ordinary. Why? Because you dared to feel it first. You become aware of how sensitive your state really is, how easily the old mind wants to creep back in. But now you're awake. You recognize the moment it tries to reclaim its territory. You feel the subtle shift and you say, "No, I am not that anymore." You close your eyes, go within and feel again. You imagine again. You enter again. Because this is not a one-time act. It is a daily discipline, a sacred art. The more you feel it, the more you embody it. The more you embody it, the more your life must express it. You've become the gatekeeper of your inner world. You don't just feel anything, you choose. You no longer entertain feelings of lack, unworthiness, or fear because they're not welcome in the house of fulfillment. And the moment they arise, you let them pass through like wind, not anchors. You don't argue with them. You replace them. You lift yourself through assumption. You climb into the elevated state, and you remain there not by force, but by feeling. You become more sensitive to your emotional guidance. For now you know that feeling is the compass of the soul. If you feel off, it's not a punishment. It's an invitation to return. If you feel blocked, it's not failure. It's a reminder to realign. You don't condemn yourself. You recalibrate. You don't panic. You pause. And then again you feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled gently, deeply, completely. And from that state you rise anew. You rise not with effort but with ease, because you understand now that creation is not a grind. It is a grace. No longer impressed by appearances. No longer moved by momentary shadows on the screen of life. You look past the outer world and trust the reality within. That trust becomes your power. That inner conviction becomes your wealth. The world outside may still be catching up, but inside you've already arrived. And what has arrived within cannot be delayed forever in the outer. It must reflect. It must unfold. And so with this inner knowing, you begin to walk differently. You speak with the tone of certainty. You act in harmony with the unseen reality. You no longer contradict your desire with disbelief. You support it with your attitude, your behavior, your imagination. You catch yourself in moments of doubt and gently course correct. You don't scold yourself. You guide yourself like a loving parent guiding a child back to safety. You choose again to feel it real. And that choice is the miracle. The miracle is not just the manifestation. It's the moment you decide to feel now what ought to say you can only feel later. The moment you dare to celebrate before the world gives you permission. The moment you trust your inner reality more than outer appearances, that is the true miracle. The resurrection of your power, the reclaiming of your authority as creator. You stop waiting for signs and start being the sign. You stop looking for proof and start living as proof. You stop praying for something to happen and start praising because it already has. The more you do this, the more effortless it becomes. The state becomes natural, normal, second nature. It becomes your identity. No longer a visitor, you are a resident of the state fulfilled. No longer faking it, you are being it. And the more you dwell in that state, the more magnetic you become. People feel your energy and they are drawn not to what you have, but to what you are. You radiate a silent authority, a calm assurance, a quiet, undeniable presence. You don't need to explain your power. It's felt, it's known, real. In this new life of feeling first, you realize you are free. Free from the need to control others, free from the need to manipulate events, free from the fear of delay. Because delay no longer matters. What you feel is real. What you feel is here. What you feel you are. And what you are must appear in your world. For this is the law. Creation is finished, and consciousness is the only reality. You carry that truth like a seed in your soul. You no longer dig it up to check on it. You water it with feeling. You expose it to the sunlight of faith. You protect it from the weeds of doubt and fear. And day by day something beautiful grows. It may begin in silence, invisible to the eyes of others, but you feel it sprouting. You feel it expanding. And that feeling is enough. You no longer need confirmation because your feeling is the confirmation. You have tasted the future now. You have lived in the end and nothing can take that from you. You begin to look at life not as something to you, but something emerging through you. You no longer say, I hope it happens. You say it is unfolding now. You move from anxiety to expectation, from striving to surrender, from hoping to knowing. And in that knowing you walk freely. You do not cling, you allow. You do not force, you attract. You do not beg, you bless. You are not trying to become, you already are. And every action you take from that state carries power, precision, and peace. Even when challenges come, and you meet them from your state, not from your fear. You meet them from the assumption that all things are working together for your good. You meet them as the person who has already won, not the one trying to win. And your response shapes the outcome. You feel your way through the storm and it must pass. You keep your eyes inward while the world around you shifts, and eventually it reflects the harmony you maintained. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the emotional tone of your life. You begin to realize that everything you've ever wanted was simply an invitation to feel something new. The desire wasn't about the thing. It was about the state. You weren't chasing the car, the house, the person. You were chasing a feeling. And now you've turned within and found that the feeling was never out there. It was always available within you, waiting to be chosen. And as you feel it, you notice something strange. The desire begins to dissolve. Not because it was denied, but because it has been fulfilled. This is the great paradox of creation. The moment you no longer need the thing, it comes. The moment you let go of effort and enter into rest, the path unfolds. The moment you stop trying to create and start accepting that it is already created, everything begins to accelerate. You become a vessel for the unseen to express itself. You become a mirror for the divine imagination. You live as one who knows, not guesses, not hopes, but knows. And that knowing comes from feel. You recognize now that all knowing is preceded by feeling. Long before it becomes fact, it is felt. Long before it is seen, it is believed. The feeling is the signal. The vibration, the agreement between you and the reality you have chosen. It is not manufactured through willpower. It flows through surrender. You let the feeling come to life within you, and you dwell in it as though there were nothing else to dwell in. And as you persist in that dwelling place, everything that belongs to that state finds you. You stop reaching and you start receiving. You stop asking and you begin affirming. You no longer say, I want this, but thank you that I already have it. You no longer strive for a breakthrough. You rest in the realization that there is nothing to break through, only something to become aware of. You are not waiting on the universe. The universe is waiting on you to align, to assume, to feel. And when you do, the heavens open, the way is made, the bridges of incidents unfurl. And what was once impossible becomes inevitable. In this place, your imagination is not a toy. It is a tool, a portal, a sanctuary. You go there not to escape reality, but to create it. You do not merely see with your inner eye. You feel with your inner being. You step into the scene of your desire as if it were already complete, and you feel what you would feel if it were true. And then you let that feeling remain. You wear it like a garment. You breathe it like air. And the longer you remain in that feeling, the more natural it becomes until it no longer feels like imagination. It feels like home. When it feels like home, life begins to shape itself around it. People begin to respond to you differently. Not because they've changed, but because you have. You are no longer the person who is waiting. You are the one who has received, and life treats you accordingly. For the world cannot help but yield to the one who feels it real. Your environment becomes the echo of your internal world. What once felt distant becomes close. What once felt hard becomes easy. What once felt like a dream becomes your daily experience. You no longer wonder if it's working. You know it's working because you feel the shift inside you. You no longer check the outer world for signs. Your sign is the inner peace, the inner joy, the inner stability that has taken root. You have moved into the fulfillment so completely that nothing can shake you. Even if the outer contradicts your assumption, you do not flinch. You smile because you understand that the shadow always flickers before the light shines fully. It's not a denial. It's a delay that cannot last. You feel the satisfaction before the senses catch up. You live in the harvest before the seeds have visibly sprouted. That's the power of feeling. It shortens the distance between desire and fulfillment, between asking and having, between imagining and becoming. It collapses time not by force but by frequency. For time bends to the one who already feels it done. The world responds to the dominant vibration, not the desperate plea. And your vibration is shaped by the state you occupy. And your state is maintained through what you feel to be true. This is not about empty affirmations or surface-level positivity. This is about embodiment. This is about being so saturated in the energy of your desire fulfilled that you become indistinguishable from it. People look at you and feel something even if they can't put words to it. There's a presence, a completeness, a certainty that radiates from you. You are not grasping for proof. You are the proof. You don't speak as one trying to convince. You speak as one who knows. And that knowing is what moves mountains. You no longer need to fight for your future. You rest in it. You feel it ahead of its arrival. You live from it instead of toward it. And everything begins to conspire on your behalf. Not because you manipulated circumstances, but because you became the magnet that draws all. It is everything. Your faith becomes sight. Your inner reality becomes your outer experience. Not by chance, but by law. Not by accident, but by assumption. Not by struggle, but by surrender. You become the embodiment of your desire. And the world mirrors you perfectly. You don't question the mirror anymore. You don't plead with it to change. You simply change your expression, and the mirror reflects it. So too with life. The moment you shift internally, life begins its dance of reflection. And even if it takes time in the outer realm, you remain unfazed because within you it is already done. You are not waiting for the world to catch up. You are walking in the assurance that it must. The scene may not have fully materialized, but the feeling has, and that is the true manifestation. You understand now why the ancients said, "Let the weak say, I am strong." It wasn't a denial of reality. It was a declaration of a deeper reality. It was a command to assume the state and feel it before. The evidence arrived. Because the evidence always follows the assumption. And the assumption is made alive by feeling. Not words, not effort, not logic, feeling. It is the language of the subconscious, the instruction given to the deeper self, the vibrational code that aligns you with your chosen world. And so you return again and again to the place within. You close your eyes to the noise and you awaken to the silence where all things are possible. You turn from appearances and you immerse yourself in the end. You walk in the harvest. You eat from the table before the table appears. You rejoice before the answer because in your world, the only world that truly matters, it is already done. You are already there. You have already received and the feeling makes it so. Each time you feel it, you lay another stone in the foundation of your new reality. Each time you return to the state of the wish fulfilled, you deepen the groove in consciousness. And soon what once felt like imagination begins to feel like memory. It becomes familiar, second nature, your new normal. You are no longer pretending. You are remembering. You are not hoping. You are experiencing. And because you feel it so vividly, it must externalize. The law cannot be broken. What you feel, you become. What you persist in feeling, you must express. So you persist, not with strain, but with quiet confidence. You let go of the compulsion to check for results because the feeling is the result. The inner world is where the real creation happens. The outer world is merely the echo. Just as a shadow follows form, the physical must follow the spiritual impression. And feeling is the spiritual impression. It carves the image into your subconscious, and the subconscious, like fertile soil, brings forth after its kind. You do not need to beg the soil to produce what you've planted. You simply water it with faith, sunlight it with feeling, and trust the process. So it is with your consciousness. Once you feel it real, free. Once you saturate yourself with the end as though it were now, the seed is sown. It cannot remain buried forever. It will rise. It will bloom. It will manifest in ways you could never calculate. For consciousness is not limited by logic. It is governed by law, and the law responds to assumption that is felt. As you continue in this practice, you become less reactive to circumstances. You no longer let the senses dictate your mood or belief. You know now that appearances are but past assumptions taking form. They are not permanent. They are not ultimate. They are the reflection of old states, and you've moved on. You've selected a new dwelling. You are abiding in the end. You are no longer the version of yourself who lacked or needed. You are the one who already possesses. And because you feel that to be true, the law honors it. When you feel something real enough, it imprints itself so deeply that all contrary facts dissolve. They lose their grip on your attention. You are not shaken by why delay or contradiction. You stay faithful to the feeling, for the feeling is the bridge. It is the movement from invisibility to visibility. It is the arc of manifestation. You may not know how it will unfold, but you know that it must. That is the rest of faith. That is the rest of the one who walks in assumption. You no longer strive. You allow. You no longer chase. You choose. You choose again and again to feel as if it were done. Not once, not casually, but with consistency and reverence. You treat the feeling as sacred because it is the key to your world. You know that the more naturally you feel it, the more swiftly it comes. You cultivate it in quiet moments. You revisit it throughout your day. You return to it before sleep, and you wake up with it in your heart. It is your silent prayer, your living meditation, your invisible mode through which the formless becomes form. As you persist in this internal knowing, life becomes less about achieving and more about aligning. The striving ceases because you are no longer trying to become. You are being. You are no longer convincing yourself. It has become effortless. The burden lifts because you're not pushing the world to move. You are moving internally, and the world is simply following. The outer bends to the inner. That is the secret. The world has forgotten. But you remember, you felt it. The more deeply you feel it, the more deeply you embody it. You walk differently, speak differently. Carry yourself with the posture of someone who has, not with arrogance, but with divine assurance. You are no longer swayed by rejection because you know your assumption is true. You no longer crumble at delay because you know the harvest is certain. You are unmoved because you are grounded not in fact, but in feeling. You know your world will rearrange itself to reflect what you have chosen within. And now what once felt like fantasy becomes felt reality, not because anything changed on the outside first, but because you, or changed. The feeling of wealth, the feeling of love, the feeling of success, the feeling of joy. It begins within, and it spills outward. You are no longer the one asking how. It no longer matters. The how is not yours to manage. Your part is the feeling. The feeling does the work. The feeling paves the way. The feeling instructs life what to deliver. And when you feel it long enough, fully enough, faithfully enough, it comes. It comes not because you chased it, but because you matched it, you didn't force it. You aligned with it. You didn't wait for it. You live from it. That is the difference between one who manifests and one who hopes. One assumes the posture of fulfillment. The other lingers in the shadows of wanting. But wanting is not having. Wanting only prolongs the gap. Having shortens it, and the only way to have before you have is to feel it. So you become skilled in the art of inner movement. You begin to understand the subtlety of this work. You refine your focus. You want. CH your reactions. You become aware of the invisible conversations in your mind. You notice how quickly the feeling of lack tries to creep in, and how gently yet firmly you must redirect yourself back to the feeling of possession. You start to discipline your attention, not with force but with love, because you know that where your feeling goes, your life follows. This feeling becomes your atmosphere. It becomes the state in which you dwell not occasionally but continuously. You create a home for your desired state and live in it so fully that it becomes more real to you than the facts of the senses. You prioritize it. You protect it. You honor it not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. That's when your power is proven. When you hold the feeling despite outer contradictions, that's when the world must yield. That's when the bridge of incidents begins to unfold. The phone call comes. The door opens. The shift happens. Not by magic, but by law. Not by coincidence, but by correction. Respondence. You felt it long enough that life could no longer ignore it. You didn't beg or manipulate. You became, and in becoming you changed your world. Not one part of your world can remain the same when you persist in a new feeling. Reality must bow to what you feel consistently. It must become the reflection of the internal movie you've chosen to play. And so I leave you with this truth. You are not at the mercy of your conditions. You are the cause of them. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you. The secret has always been within your grasp. Feel it. Feel it as though it were real. Feel it until it becomes real. Do not wait for the evidence. Become the evidence. Assume the state of the one who already possesses what they once desired. Walk in it, dwell in it, sleep in it, and you will prove the law to yourself, not through effort, but through alignment. You do not need to beg God or life for a change. You need only to feel the change, because when you feel it, you are it. And when you are it, the world has no choice but to reflect it. As Neville Goddard had said, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. So change it now, not by force, but by feeling. Feel it so deeply that nothing can shake your knowing. And in time, the world will rearrange to match the vision you've held, the state you've embodied, and the reality you've dared to feel real. That is the law. That is the power. That is you.